54 severe weather reports exploded across the Deep South in just 24 hours, and meteorologists are warning that this is only the opening act. Tornadoes ripped through Mississippi and Alabama, while Denver was simultaneously buried under its biggest May snowstorm in more than 20 years. Some mountain areas near Colorado picked up nearly 3 feet of snow in May. Meanwhile, parts of the upper Midwest are running 15 degrees below normal, just weeks before summer officially begins. This is no ordinary weather swing. It's an atmospheric war zone. And now, something massive is brewing over the Pacific that could change the entire rest of 2026. By the middle of this update, I'm going to show you a climate signal so extreme that scientists are comparing it to patterns not seen since 1877, a year so far back nobody alive today remembers anything like it. Forecast models are becoming shockingly aggressive, and some experts now believe we may be watching the early stages of a potentially historic Super El Niño event. If these projections verify, this could reshape hurricane season, trigger extreme flooding, unleash brutal heat waves, and supercharge severe weather across the United States. But first, let's talk about what just happened. Over the last 48 hours, the atmosphere completely flipped into overdrive. Tornado warnings lit up across Mississippi and Alabama as violent storms produced damaging winds, giant hail, and confirmed tornado touchdowns. Survey teams are still assessing destruction zones right now, and the number of severe weather reports continues climbing by the hour. Families across the South are waking up to shattered homes, uprooted trees, and widespread damage. At the exact same time, Denver was getting hammered by a historic snowstorm. Denver International Airport officially logged its biggest May snowfall since 2003, while areas just outside the city were buried under feet of heavy, wet snow before Mother's Day. Think about how insane that is. Blizzard conditions in Colorado, while severe tornado outbreaks explode across the South, and dangerous heat begins building in the Southwest. That's not normal weather. That's the atmosphere stretching itself to extremes. And it gets worse. The massive trough responsible for the cold and severe weather outbreak is now shifting eastward, dragging instability directly into the southeast coast. From northern Florida through Georgia and into the Carolinas, storms are expected to intensify through the weekend. Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, all of you are inside the impact zone. Atmospheric instability is running between 1,000 and 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is more than enough fuel for isolated severe storms, capable of damaging winds, hail, and isolated tornadoes. At the same time, the Gulf Coast is entering a dangerous flood setup. Houston, New Orleans, Gulfport, Mobile, and surrounding areas could see rounds of excessive rainfall capable of flash flooding. Forecasters are warning drivers right now, turn around, don't drown. Flooded roads may look shallow, but washed-out pavement and moving water can become deadly in seconds. And while the South deals with flooding and severe storms, the northern tier is facing a completely different threat: frost and freeze conditions. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, the Dakotas, and even parts of northern Maine are dangerously close to damaging overnight temperatures. Gardeners who already planted early crops could wake up to widespread damage by sunrise. But now comes the part of this forecast that genuinely has forecasters stunned. Out in the Pacific Ocean, a powerful Kelvin wave has dramatically altered sea surface temperatures, rapidly strengthening El Niño conditions. Scientists are now seeing model guidance that pushes the probability of a Super El Niño event toward near certainty by winter 2026. Some projections are so extreme, they're forcing comparisons all the way back to 1877. one of the strongest El Niño years ever recorded. Read that again. Models are seriously entertaining a climate pattern not seen since the 1800s. If this evolves the way current projections suggest, the consequences could be enormous. The subtropical jet stream is already pulling deep tropical moisture northward from the Pacific into Mexico and the southern United States. That moisture feed is one of the reasons the East Coast is suddenly shifting from drought toward repeated heavy rain events. The Carolinas and Virginia, areas that have been trapped in severe drought for weeks, may finally see major relief. Forecast models are tracking 4 separate rainfall events targeting the East Coast in a single week. If even half of that verifies, drought conditions could rapidly improve heading into summer. But the West is about to pay the price. High pressure is now building aggressively across California, Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico, and forecasters are warning that the desert Southwest could experience dangerously early season heat next week. Some areas of Arizona and inland California may approach 110 degrees by May 10th through 12th. Triple-digit heat could surge into Texas, Oklahoma, and parts of Kansas before mid-May. That kind of heat this early in the season is especially dangerous because people's bodies are not acclimated yet. Heat waves in May often hit harder physiologically than the same temperatures in July because nobody is prepared for them. Power grids become stressed, heat exhaustion spikes. Vulnerable populations are caught off guard, and this may only be the beginning. Long-range guidance is now hinting that once the heat pushes eastward later in May, it could collide with lingering cold air across the plains and Midwest, potentially reigniting another dangerous severe weather pattern across states like Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas between May 18th and 26th. The ingredients are already starting to line up. Then, there's hurricane season. The Pacific hurricane season begins in just days, and the Atlantic season follows immediately after. Warmer Pacific waters tied to El Niño could dramatically increase early tropical development in some regions before stronger upper-level wind shear eventually suppresses parts of the Atlantic later in the season. Some guidance is already whispering about possible Gulf development by mid-June. That's incredibly early. Step back and look at the full picture here. Historic severe weather outbreaks in the South. Record-breaking May snow in Denver. Arctic cold invading the Midwest weeks before summer. 110-degree heat building in the Southwest. A possible once-in-a-generation super El Niño forming offshore. All of it is happening at the same time. This atmosphere is loading enormous amounts of energy into the system, and that energy always gets released somewhere. So here's the bottom line. If you're in the frost zone, protect your plants tonight because freeze damage could happen fast. If you're along the Gulf Coast or Southeast, keep flash flood alerts active and never drive across flooded roads. If you're in the Southwest, start preparing for dangerous heat now. Hydrate early, limit afternoon activity, and check on elderly neighbors before temperatures spike. And if you live in the Carolinas or Virginia, relief may finally be on the way, as repeated rain systems target the region over the next 10 days. Most importantly, stay weather-aware this entire month, because after tornado outbreaks, historic snowstorms, dangerous flooding, extreme heat, and a climate signal reaching back to 1877, this pattern is no longer ordinary weather. This is the atmosphere entering a dangerous new phase.